Women's right to vote. A mom's letter changed history, passing the 19th Amendment. On a hot August morning in 1920, a young man named Harry Byrne walked into the Tennessee state capitol. He was only 24 years old, and this was his first year as a state representative. Pinned to his jacket was a red rose. This red rose meant he opposed amending the U.S. Constitution guaranteeing women the right to vote. In Harry's pocket was something more powerful than any political symbol, a 7-page letter from his mother, Phoebe Byrne, affectionately known as Miss Feb. The letter was mostly family news, but those pages also contained a simple message from mom to son that altered American history. Hurrah, and vote for suffrage! Don't keep them in doubt. Don't forget to be a good boy. No more from Mama this time. With lots of love, Mama. What happened next would decide whether American women would finally get the right to vote, or whether their 70-year struggle would end in another defeat. By August 1920, the fight for women's voting rights had come down to Tennessee. 35 states had said yes to the 19th Amendment. One more state out of 48 was needed to make it part of the Constitution. If Tennessee said no, the amendment would probably die. Nashville became a public battleground. Those who supported women's voting rights wore yellow roses. Those opposed wore red roses. Tennessee lawmakers pinned roses to their jackets to show their positions. Newspapers called it the War of the Roses. Big railroad companies and liquor businesses spent lots of money to stop women from getting the vote. They thought women voters would hurt their business and political power. When the Tennessee House met on August 18, 1920, things looked bad for suffrage supporters. The supporters counted 49 red and 47 yellow roses displayed on lawmakers' jackets, so speaking with legislators continued to the very last second. House Speaker Seth Walker was against women voting. He tried to kill the vote before it even happened. Speaker Walker twice entertained a motion to table the amendment, and if successful, the rule was that the amendment would not be voted on and would not pass. Both times, Representative Banks Turner switched sides to tie the vote at 48-48. This defeated the motion to table the amendment, and an actual vote on ratification would take place. If the vote remained tied, the amendment would not pass. The real vote was about to begin, and everyone was watching the young man from East Tennessee, who wore a red rose but had his mother's letter in his pocket. Hanging in the balance was the 19th Amendment, which said, Section 1, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Section 2. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. These 39 words represented the hopes and dreams of millions of American women. The fight for women's voting rights grew out of other reform movements, especially slavery abolition. Many suffrage leaders first experienced politics by working to abolish slavery. Important early events in the suffrage movement. In 1840, two women, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, were not allowed to attend an anti-slavery meeting in London just because they were women. This inspired them to fight for women's rights. In 1848, Stanton and Mott organized the first women's rights meeting in Seneca Falls, New York. They wrote a declaration of sentiments supporting women's rights that was modeled on the Declaration of Independence. In 1850, the first National Women's Rights Convention happened in Massachusetts, with people from all over the country. Early leaders in the suffrage movement. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the main thinker and planner of the movement. Susan B. Anthony became the most famous face of the movement. She was arrested in 1872 for trying to vote illegally. Lucretia Mott, a minister and reformer who helped start the movement. The American West became the testing ground for women's voting rights. Territories and states there gave women the vote many years before the rest of the country. Wyoming Territory was a leader in women's voting rights. On December 10, 1869, the Wyoming Territory became the first place anywhere in the world to give women the same voting rights as men. On September 6, 1870, Louisa Swain became the first woman to vote under this new law. Wyoming pursued this policy because in 1869, there were over 6,000 adult men in Wyoming, but only 1,000 women, and hoped more women would arrive if they could vote. Wyoming didn't just let women vote. They could also hold office, own property, have custody of their children, and enjoy full legal equality. When Wyoming wanted to become a state in 1890, Congress said they had to take away women's voting rights first. Wyoming's lawmakers said, "We will stay out of the Union for 100 years before we come in without the women." Other Western states were also in the vanguard of women's legal equality. The Utah Territory was schizophrenic. In 1870, the territory let women vote, but took it away in 1887, then gave it back in 1896. The Washington Territory in 1883 gave women the vote, but courts took it away in 1888, then gave it back in 1910. Colorado in 1893 became the first state where regular voters chose to give women the vote. Idaho in 1896 amended the state constitution to grant women the right to vote. The West was different from the East. Life on the frontier was hard, and women's help was more obvious and valued, and these areas wanted women settlers. Plus, there were fewer old established political systems to reform. In 1890, the primary suffrage leaders joined together to form the National American Woman Suffrage Association. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was the first president, then Susan B. Anthony took over. In 1913, Alice Paul started the National Woman's Party, breaking away from National American Woman Suffrage Association, and employed new tactics to advance the cause. Starting in 1917, National Woman's Party members became the first people ever to protest outside the White House. Protesters were arrested, put in jail, and went on hunger strikes to get attention. World War I created opportunities for the suffrage movement. Women's contributions to the war effort demonstrated that they deserved to be full citizens. It became harder to justify fighting for American first principles in other countries while excluding women from full participation at home. It became harder to justify fighting for American first principles in other countries while excluding women from full participation at home. After 40 years of saying no from 1878 to 1918, Congress finally changed its mind. The amendment was first brought to Congress on January 10, 1878, by Senator Aaron Sargent from California, who worked closely with Susan B. Anthony to draft the proposed amendment. That's why people called it the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. For the next 40 years, it was introduced in every Congress, but it kept getting voted down. In 1919, in the House, Illinois Representative James R. Mann was chairman of the Woman Suffrage Committee. He introduced the Susan B. Anthony Amendment and fought hard to get it passed. The final votes, May 21, 1919, the House of Representatives passed the 19th Amendment 304 to 89, and on June 4, 1919, the Senate passed it 56 to 25. The amendment needed 36 out of 48 states to approve it as required by the Constitution's Article 5. Quick approvals in 1919 included Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan, and most Western states approved it quickly. By August 1920, 35 states had said yes to the 19th Amendment. Tennessee would be the 36th and final state needed. The dramatic vote was on August 18, 1920. The Tennessee House took up the vote after the Tennessee Senate had already ratified the amendment. At first, it looked like the suffrage supporters would lose. 49 lawmakers who were against the amendment wore red roses, and 47 who supported women's suffrage wore yellow roses. House Speaker Seth Walker was so sure he would win that he tried to kill the vote before it happened. But Representative Banks Turner switched sides, and with a tie vote, Walker's effort to kill the amendment went down 48 to 48. The next vote would decide women's suffrage for the entire United States. Everything came down to 24-year-old Harry Byrne from East Tennessee. He wore a red rose in opposition, but he had his mother's letter in his pocket telling him to be a good boy and vote for suffrage. When they called Harry Byrne's name, he shocked everyone by voting yes, following his mother's advice, even though he wore a red rose. The Tennessee House approved the amendment 4947, making it part of the Constitution. Byrne's vote caused chaos. The people against suffrage tried different tricks to change the result, and Byrne had to hide in the Capitol building to avoid angry opponents. But Harry's vote stood, and on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment officially became part of the Constitution. When Harry Byrne walked into the Tennessee State House that hot August morning in 1920, he carried more than his mother's letter. He carried the hopes of more than 70 years of struggle by countless American women and their supporters. Great leaders had paved the way. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony had built the foundation. Alice Paul had brought new energy and confrontational methods. Thousands of women had marched, protested, been arrested, and gone on hunger strikes. In the end, it came down to a message from a mother to her son: "Don't forget to be a good boy." A mother's love and wisdom, expressed in a caring letter full of family news and gentle political guidance, brought together the organizing, planning, protesting, and never giving up that had defined the suffrage movement. The 19th Amendment became law because of big strategies and small moments, public demonstrations and private conversations, famous leaders and unknown supporters, and because a young man chose to listen to his mother on a sweltering day in Nashville. In that moment, Feb Byrne's voice became the voice of all American women claiming their right to participate as citizens of the American Republic. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging stories from history that shaped our law, and join in the work to combat constitutional illiteracy.